How do you feel about Jared Goff thing with Dan Campbell saying he's better than on the Lions than the Rams? So this was interesting today. This is a little bit of news and a dead period, if you will. Dan Campbell comes out and says, Jared Goff is better now than he was with the Rams. Now, is he wrong? Is he right? I mean, here's the thing, okay? The stats would probably say he is wrong to a degree. And the reason I say that is you look back and you're like, okay, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year, did a really nice job. 65.1 completion percentage, 4,438 yards. So the body of work there, passer rating of 99.3. Are any of those a career high? Well, let's look. And also 9-8. So any of those career high? Well, let's see. 65.1 is lower than the year prior in Detroit and the year prior in Los Angeles, 67 and 67.2. He does have a career high in Detroit. 2021, he had 67.2 completion percentage. His yards for a season, his career high was back in 2018, and then 2019 is his second highest. Touchdowns, he had a career high in 2018. Interceptions, he's tied for a career low in 2017. And then his passer rating was in the hundreds in 2017 and 18 and has not been since. So are we talking statistically better? Because if that's the case, I would push back and say that it's just not true. At least I don't think you can say that, but you're as good as your last game, right? And Jared Goff's last game in LA versus now with Detroit, Jared Goff's a better quarterback now in Detroit than he was his last game in LA. I think that's definitely fair to say, right? His last game against the Packers, valiant effort. They lose. I thought he played well despite the fact that Bobby Evans was a turnstile of an offensive lineman and got him killed multiple times that game. But when you look at Jared Goff and the body of work, the way he ends the Rams' tenure there, that's who he is. Yeah, he's better in Detroit than he was the way he finished with the Rams. However, his best year, I would say, without question, is 2018. 2018, he throws for 32 touchdowns. He has a career high passing yards, right? 12 interceptions. I don't give a damn. Shoot or shoot, right? 101.1 passer rating, career high. Like, this was Jared Goff's 4 fourth quarter comebacks, 4 game-winning drives, career high. He had 3 this past year, which was second. Pro Bowler, all of that, right? I understand people are getting excited about Jared Goff. I understand it. But I don't necessarily agree with the idea that he's better now than he ever was in LA. Because I don't think that's true. I think Jared Goff in 2018 was turning into a legitimate franchise quarterback and legitimately looking like a top quarterback in the NFL. And now you could say, okay, the way he ended the Rams, that's fair. But let's see what happens in year 3. I think keeping Ben Johnson's a big deal. Now, here's another argument that you can make about the Jared Goff thing, okay? Jared Goff is a better quarterback now than he was when he was putting up those numbers in 2018. Just as a pure quarterback, no strings attached to any of the stats or anything. And the reason for that is because Jared Goff had more help with Sean McVay. He was talking in his ear, and that's not happening now. Well, my pushback would be Jared Goff has Ben Johnson. And I keep hearing how Ben Johnson is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay. He's one of the best offensive coordinators in football. He would have been a head coach easily, but didn't want to leave. So which is it? Because that's where I kind of push back and say Goff, in all likelihood, at 28 is the best Goff that we've seen. From a pure quarterback having all of that body of work, playing in a Super Bowl, playing in multiple playoff games, having 13 career game-winning drives and 11 comebacks. In some capacity, Jared Goff now is better than he's ever been. I think that's a fair assessment. But at the same time, Jared Goff didn't just have his best season. That was 2018. So, I'm probably over analyzing that, but I think that there are people taking it out of context. Jared Goff is also 12-18-1 with the Lions. He was 42-27-0 with the Rams. I mean, again, quarterback wins is not everything, but I don't know if I agree with the idea that Jared Goff wasn't developed in LA, because he was, because before that, he had 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He was 0-7. He had a 54.6 completion percentage and barely over 1,000 yards in 7 games. He was a train wreck. 63.6 passer rating. So I've been seeing Dan Campbell and company have developed him, and the Rams gave up on his development. And my thing is, did they give up on his development? They gave him a contract. He wasn't playing. Like, there's a significant drop-off with Jared Goff's statistical output. So he goes from 5-7 with a 63.6 passer rating without McVay. The moment McVay enters his life, he goes 11-4. He ups his completion percentage from 54.6 to 62.1. He throws 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and has over 100 passer rating. That's the moment Sean McVay walks into Jared Goff's world. The next year in 2018, 13-3, they go to the Super Bowl, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he has an even better passer rating in that year. Then 2019, things get a little bit tight. They lose some guys in the offseason. They have some injuries on the offensive line. Things aren't great anymore, right? They're not bad, but they're not great. So Jared Goff has a 22 touchdown, 16 interception season in which he has a passer rating of 86.5. Then the next year, okay, this is just not the same quarterback. Like, you go from 8 yards per pass, 8.4 yards per pass, to down to 7.2 in 2020. The completion percentage went up because he wasn't throwing deep down the field as much. 20 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Then in 2021, his first year with the Lions, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I mean, he had a 90 passer rating in 2020, a 91.5 passer rating in 2021, and then he goes up to a 99.3 in 2022. So let's not act like the Lions cracked the code. Jared Goff, at one point we were talking about him being one of the top quarterbacks up and coming. So, it's not like, no, Sean McVay failed. He didn't develop him. It's not that at all. That's a common misconception here. It's just not true. But is he better right now than he was when he was with the Rams? The last time we saw him? Absolutely. That's absolutely fair. So I've hit on a lot of that, so we're going to end that. But yeah, it's not hating on Jared Goff. I just kind of get a little annoyed with the whole, McVay didn't really develop him. I'm like, what do you want McVay to do? Because at the end of the day, Goff was throwing to Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Brandon Cooks, Josh Reynolds. He had Todd Gurley, who was the most dominant offensive player from 2017-18. Okay. Like, he had weapons. He had the offensive line of the year in 2018. So, like, I'm not trying to hate. I'm just like, he went from 0-7, 54 completion percentage, 5-7, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 63 passer rating, to then immediately going to the playoffs, being a good quarterback. Yeah, sorry. Not blaming Sean McVay in the slightest for Goff. So I'll end it with that. And by the way, I like Dan Campbell, and I have nothing against the Lions, so don't take it as if this was hate towards Dan Campbell. It was more so what came after the Dan Campbell comments. Like, what were the comments after? Oh, Sean McVay didn't develop him. The Lions have figured it out. Lions haven't figured anything out. Jared Goff right now, like statistically, has not had a better season than he had in 2018 and arguably 2017. So it's not like they cracked this code when now all of a sudden Jared Goff is Patrick Mahomes. That's not what happened. He's not Aaron Rodgers. They figured out how to get him out of the 28 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and the 7.2 yards per attempt, but he's not like, it's not like he reached this level that, oh my God, we've never seen him on this level. Like, go back and watch the game against the Vikings week 4, Thursday night football in 2018. That's one of the most perfect games I've ever seen a quarterback play. And I've never seen Goff look that good with the Lions, period. So we can say Goff from a learning perspective, what's the word I'm looking for? Experience perspective. He's better today than he was yesterday. That's fine. But I've never seen Jared Goff look as good as he did week 4 in the 2018 season. In some of those games, the game against Kansas City, have you seen Goff look better than that with the Lions? No, he hasn't.